How's it swinging, everybody? Wargaming guy here. Today, we will be doing something very special. And that would be starting a brand new army. A 40k orc army has been on my radar for a while now. But I was struggling to think of a scheme that would work for them. I knew I wanted my orcs to be tough, intimidating, hard-nosed, raunchy, any term you want to put to it. Then I remembered that NFL teams had some pretty cool color schemes that I could apply to my armies. But what NFL team had all of those qualities? That's right, the Orkland Raiders. The Raiders' mystique of them being tough and gritty guys who will stomp on anyone who gets in their way would perfectly fit an orc army. Anyways, I hope you guys learn a thing or two about building and painting orcs in this video. And if you have any suggestions for this army, be sure to let me know, since I am still learning when it comes to the hobby. Alright, let's get to it. I'll be building the boys box from back in the day, as a nice little start to this army. And I think most people would consider this a classic kit. So half of these guys were already built, so let's go ahead and finish the other half of them. I wanted this half to be close quarters, because the rest had more ranged weapons. A quick little tip while building is to put blue tack on the armholes so you can more easily see a certain weapon option without having to just hold it in place. I only do this if it's hard to hold the options in position, or I can't tell if I like it until it's sitting on there. Then I built up the rest of the orcs in different close quarters classes. My favorites are the Grenadier guy, or the leader who was holding a chainsaw. I then kit bashed him with some different skulls that I had, and put them on his spiked shoulder pad, and it looked a little bit like a shish kebab. And here's a quick look at all of them completely built up. By the way, in an actual game, these guys probably suck ass, but it's okay because they look cool. So after assembling all the boys, here comes the boring part. Drilling gun barrels and slicing mold lines. It's a boring step, but it is necessary to have the boys looking as sharp as possible. The way I drill gun barrels is I start to create a nick in the barrels with an X-Acto knife, so I can then drill into it with some PVC drill bits. Then I refine it with an X-Acto knife a little bit, and it's good to go. Oh yeah, I also set up a couple body parts so I can test a couple of my painting techniques on them, but I didn't really end up using it. So now that all that is done with, let's get these guys primed up and ready to paint. So the exact paints I used, I just made up as I went along. But I knew I wanted the scheme to be like the Raiders' home uniforms, with black shirts and gray pants. I think it looks a lot more intimidating than their away uniform, which is just all white. I also wanted to paint all the orcs different and bright skin tones, so there was a huge amount of contrast between their dark and metallic armor and their vibrant skin. I'm not really following any tutorials here. I'm just going to throw some paint on in different ways, and we'll see what we get. I'm going to show you how I painted one guy entirely, because I generally did the same thing for all of them, but there are also plenty of unique things I did for some of them, which I'll be sure to point out. So, to paint their shirts black, I decided to use some speed paint, since painting them with a flat black would look a little weird, and highlighting with a gray would be pretty hard. I painted the pants stonewall gray, and base coated the gun black. I dry brushed with a dark gray, and then right after that, did the same with the dark metal. For the helmets, I found out sponging with a bright silver gives it a cast iron pot kind of look, which I really liked. But I discovered this kind of late, so for the first few, I just used the same technique I did for the guns. To make the guns look battle hardened, I used this weathering powder stuff that I had from Tamea. It made their weapons look rusty and dirty by adding a little water to the powder and then applying it to their guns and swords. I base coated the skin with any old green paint, and then shaded the recesses to add some definition to their arms and head. Then I mixed some white with the green paint to make it brighter and painted it on the tops of their muscles and important features of their heads. I added the brighter skin in a few layers, adding more white to each one and covering less and less area with each layer, and trying to paint those layers in the direction of the light. For their grenades, I painted them with a grayish green, and then sponged on some gray to make it look like there was chips in the paint. Then for the more miscellaneous things, like the leather straps or wrist guards, I just gave them a coat of brown with a wash, or just one quick coat of dark metal. Then I could finally paint some cool things, like white face paint on the half of this guy's face. That gives more personality to each guy, which was one of my goals when I started this army. I painted this guy's teeth bright silver, so he has some titanium molars to bite those Imperial dogs with. Another cool thing that I added was these freebooter decals. That looks pretty Raider appropriate. To apply decals, I use this micro set and micro sole stuff to help them slide on and make them stick better. I cut the decals I wanted off with my X-Acto knife and let it sit on a folded wet paper towel. Then I put micro sole on the decal and micro set on the place I wanted to put the decal. I threw on the decals, and now we got some mean looking Raiders. And now they're finally finished. Here are a couple of the biggest boys up close. And of course, the first thing I did was make a little battle with my Blood Angels and now the Raiders. This fulfilled one of my dreams of having these two armies in real life when I was playing Dawn of War all those years ago. There will be plenty more of these guys in the future, and now having acquired a 3D printer, this army will be going places. I also have plans for another army in the future that's maybe based on a certain Vietnam War movie. Make sure to drop a fat one on that subscribe button, and I'll see you soon. Have a good one.